Let me ask you an uncomfortable question right away. What if your problem was never a lack of talent, but an excess of excuses? You spent your life hearing that successful people were born with a gift, that success belongs to those who have something special. But what if I told you that this is one of the biggest lies ever sold to you? And worse, a convenient lie. Talent impresses, discipline builds wealth, talent draws attention, discipline builds financial success, talent gives you quick applause, discipline gives you lasting results. The truth is counterintuitive. High-level people don't win because they are extraordinary. They win because they do the basics extraordinarily well every single day. Even without motivation, even when tired, even without recognition. They developed mental discipline and emotional discipline to the point of acting regardless of their mood. And that changes everything. If you've ever started projects and quit halfway, if you feel like you could be much further ahead, if you know you have potential, but the results don't match, then this video is for you. Today you'll understand why talent without discipline is wasted, why consistency beats inconsistent genius, and how to start playing to win for real. And I already want to know, do you believe you were born with enough talent, or do you think you need to develop more discipline? Comment below and hit like and subscribe, because what you're about to hear today can completely change your mindset about personal success and wealth. You grew up hearing that successful people were born with talent, as if success were a rare gift distributed in the nursery. They said some people already carried the formula for wealth within them, while others would have to settle for average. This narrative is comfortable, almost poetic, but deeply dangerous. Because when you believe it, you transfer responsibility to chance. And without realizing it, you start playing not to lose instead of playing to win. But there's a truth that almost no one had the courage to tell you. Talent impresses, of course it does, but it does not sustain victory alone. It can open doors, generate quick applause, even provide an initial advantage. But without discipline, that talent turns into smoke at the first obstacle. High-level people don't rely only on ease. They rely on daily execution. Personal success and financial success are built in invisible repetition, not in moments of brilliance. And this is exactly where many promising people begin to stumble. The real world rewards those who show up every day, even when you're not in your best mood. It's mental discipline that makes you study when no one is watching. It's emotional discipline that prevents impulsive decisions that sabotage your wealth. While some wait for inspiration, you could be accumulating small, silent victories. And those small victories, repeated, build a solid mindset. It's not magic, it's mathematical. You begin to realize the problem was never a lack of talent, but a lack of consistency. How many times have you started something excited and quit halfway? How many promising projects died because motivation ran out? Successful people are not the most excited, they are the most committed. They understood that winning is not about momentary intensity, but about strategic endurance. And that difference changes everything. The great lie is believing that occasional genius outperforms consistent effort. In practice, average discipline beats inconsistent talent almost every time, because the disciplined improve a little every day, while the talented relax in their own ease. And in the long run, that difference becomes an abyss. Wealth, reputation, and success stop being dreams and become predictable consequences. But there is still a hidden trap in all of this, and that trap is precisely poorly managed talent. When you believe too much in your own ease, you start negotiating with effort. You begin to avoid challenges that threaten your self-image. And little by little, what seemed like an advantage becomes a silent limitation. This is where the real problem of talent is born. And that's exactly what we need to explore now. There is a side of talent that almost no one talks about. And maybe you've never stopped to observe it coldly. When something has always been easy for you, the tendency is to believe it always will be. Ease creates a silent sense of superiority, almost imperceptible. And that's where the danger lies. You start trusting natural ability more than discipline. Successful people understand talent is a starting point, not a guarantee of success. But those who rely only on it end up being surprised by the first major challenge. The problem is that talent gets you used to quick wins, but does not prepare you for frustration. When something difficult arises, a business that doesn't grow, a project that doesn't deliver results, a workout that demands effort, the mind enters conflict. If you've always been good, failing feels like a threat to your identity. And without emotional discipline, the tendency is to retreat. High-level people learn to face discomfort, while many talented individuals avoid situations that test their limits. And without realizing it, they begin to stagnate. Talent without mental discipline creates a dangerous cycle of unfulfilled promises. You know you could do more, you feel you have the potential to win, but you don't execute consistently. This misalignment corrodes personal success from within. It's like having a powerful engine and never truly accelerating. Deep down, it generates frustration because you see your own capability, but you don't see financial success keeping up. And nothing weighs heavier than knowing you could be on another level. Another rarely discussed point is that talent creates dependence on motivation. If you only act when inspired, your performance fluctuates like a roller coaster. One day you produce 10 hours straight, the next you don't do the basics. Discipline, on the other hand, turns action into an automatic pattern. It eliminates the internal negotiation of, "I don't feel like it today." And in the long run, that stability builds wealth, reputation, and authority, while inconsistent genius becomes just a story of what could have been. Successful people are not those who never fail, but those who don't stop when they fail. The talented often quit early because they are not used to fighting. Those who develop emotional discipline learn to use discomfort as fuel. They understand that playing to win means enduring bad days without abandoning the plan. And that difference in posture, although it seems small, creates an abyss over the years. Perhaps the most honest question you can ask yourself right now is, do you trust your talent more or your consistency? Because while talent looks for shortcuts, discipline builds the road. And if talent may impress at first, there is something far more powerful that begins working behind the scenes. Something silent, almost invisible, but absolutely unbeatable in the long run. Discipline doesn't make noise, doesn't post motivational stories, and doesn't depend on applause. It is silent, almost invisible. And that's exactly why it's so powerful. While talent draws attention, discipline builds solid foundations behind the scenes. Successful people understand that personal success and financial success are products of repeated habits, not occasional bursts of effort. It is mental discipline that eliminates the internal negotiation of, "I'll do it later." And when that negotiation ends, execution begins. Have you noticed how most bad decisions are born from momentary emotion? Impulse buying, quitting out of fatigue, reacting out of pride. This is where emotional discipline comes in. The ability to act based on principles rather than temporary feelings. High-level people train this daily like an invisible muscle. They understand that wealth is not just money, it is control over yourself. And whoever learns to control impulses begins to play to win in every area of life. There is enormous power in small repeated actions. Improving 1% per day seems insignificant, almost irrelevant, but in the long run it becomes a real competitive advantage. Reading 10 pages a day about investments, training for 40 minutes even without motivation, investing automatically every month. That is discipline applied. Talent may start ahead, but consistency overtakes without making noise. And when you look 5 years later, the disciplined person is on another level of success. Discipline also builds internal confidence. Every promise you keep to yourself strengthens your mindset. You begin to see yourself as someone reliable, someone who does what needs to be done. That changes posture, body language, ambition. Successful people carry this quiet confidence because they know their own history of consistency, and that self-confidence turns into natural authority. The most interesting part is that after some time, action stops being effort and becomes identity. You don't train because you are motivated. You train because it's who you are. You don't invest because money is left over, but because it's part of your standard. Mental discipline automates personal success, And emotional discipline protects financial success. And when this becomes part of your identity, something even deeper begins to happen. Because at the end of the day, you don't become what you desire, you become what you repeat. And that's exactly where we enter an even more decisive territory. There comes a point where discipline stops being effort and becomes identity. At first, you force yourself to act. Later, acting becomes natural. It's like someone who starts training out of obligation and months later already sees themselves as a disciplined person. Successful people don't just execute habits, they incorporate those habits into their mindset. And when that happens, personal success stops being a goal and becomes an inevitable consequence. Every small promise you keep strengthens your self-image. When you wake up at the time you decided, study even when tired, or invest before spending, you are sending a powerful message to your brain. I am reliable. That internal construction is worth more than any raw talent. Because talent impresses others, but discipline builds self-respect. And without self-respect, there is no sustainable wealth, much less lasting financial success. The opposite is also true, and here lies an important warning. Every time you break a commitment to yourself, your identity weakens a little. It's not dramatic at first, but it is cumulative. Little by little, you begin to see yourself as someone who tries but doesn't finish. High-level people protect their word as if it were an asset. They understand that winning begins inside, long before it appears outside. Talent depends on motivation, and motivation fluctuates. There are days when you wake up electric, full of ideas, ready to play to win. But there are also cloudy, silent, difficult days. It is on those days that emotional discipline makes all the difference. The disciplined person wins precisely when they are not at their best, because they don't negotiate with their own goal. And that emotional stability is what separates those who dream from those who build. Over time, your identity begins to attract opportunities compatible with your standard. Your reputation changes, your posture changes, your energy changes. Successful people are recognized not only for talent, but for non-negotiable consistency. And when that solid identity consolidates, something very concrete begins to form. Something that goes beyond self-image and directly touches your wealth. Many people believe wealth is the result of one big win, a brilliant idea, or rare business talent. But the truth is less glamorous and far more powerful. Financial success is the result of consistent behavior over time. Successful people do not depend on luck. They depend on discipline applied to money. It's not about earning a lot once, it's about managing well always. And that completely changes the game. Wealth is born from simple habits repeated with almost boring precision. Investing every month, even if it's a small amount. Studying finance for 20 minutes a day. Avoiding debts that feed the ego but destroy the future. That is mental discipline applied to your wallet. High-level people treat money as a strategic tool, not as emotional reward. And this silent difference builds freedom over the years. There is no magical financial talent. What exists is financial habit. Organized budgeting, automatic investing, impulse control. That is emotional discipline in action. You don't stop investing because the market dropped, nor do you start spending wildly because you received an unexpected bonus. You act with logic, not emotion. And while many react to the moment, you build stability. Think of someone who invests consistently for 10 years without missing a single month. Now compare that to someone talented who understands everything about the market, but only invests when they feel it's the right time. In the long run, who do you think accumulates more wealth? Consistency creates financial compound interest and also creates compound interest in reputation. Because personal success and financial success walk together when there is coherence. The interesting part is that financial discipline doesn't just transform your bank account. It transforms your mindset. You begin to think long-term. You start playing to win for real, not just to impress. Anxiety decreases, clarity increases. And when you realize that wealth is predictable for those who execute correctly, you begin to wonder why so many people still insist on believing everything depends on talent. There is a very strong psychological reason behind the belief in talent, and it is almost never admitted. Believing that successful people were born different protects the ego, because if success depends on a gift, then the lack of results is not your fault. It's more comfortable to say, "I wasn't born for this," than to admit a lack of discipline. And as long as this narrative remains, responsibility always stays outside. When you attribute everything to talent, you avoid facing the uncomfortable part of the process. You don't have to wake up early every day. You don't have to study when no one is watching. You don't have to train when you're tired. Emotional discipline requires constant confrontation with your own limits. The excuse of talent allows you to remain in the safe zone, and it is precisely that safe zone that prevents personal success from expanding. Another point is that discipline is not glamorous. It does not generate immediate applause. It does not create epic stories to tell at a bar. It is repetitive, predictable, and sometimes boring. High-level people understood that winning is not exciting all the time. Often, it is simply doing what needs to be done in silence. And this strategic simplicity builds financial success while others are still waiting for inspiration. There is also the invisible fear of discovering your true potential. Because if you assume everything depends on your consistency, there will be no more excuses. You either execute or you don't, and that places weight on daily decisions. Mental discipline eliminates the illusion that one day I'll get there without consistent effort. It turns dreams into responsibility. Deep down, preferring to believe in talent is choosing a comfortable narrative. Choosing discipline is accepting constant discomfort in exchange for continuous growth. And while the majority chooses comfort, a minority decides to play to win for real. And it is exactly that minority that begins building an advantage that is almost impossible to reach. There is a silent logic that governs success, and it is almost mathematical. When you apply discipline daily, you create a cumulative advantage that grows without noise. One workout today seems small, one page read today seems irrelevant, one monthly investment seems modest, but successful people understand that the power is in the sum, not in the isolated act. And that sum over the years transforms into something gigantic. Refined mental discipline means improving a little every day. You learn something new, correct a mistake, adjust a strategy. It seems too simple to generate wealth, but that's exactly what generates it. High-level people do not chase miraculous shortcuts. They build continuous progress. While many search for the big leap, the discipline builds step by step. And when they look back, they realize they are already far ahead. This advantage also manifests in reputation. When you meet deadlines, deliver quality, and maintain standards, you begin to be seen as reliable. Personal success strengthens because your word gains weight. Financial success follows because opportunities seek those who are consistent. It's not just about skill, it's about positive predictability. And predictability generates trust in the market and in people. Now think about the inconsistent, talented person. They may even start ahead, but they stop when enthusiasm fades. They alternate peaks of productivity with long periods of stagnation. Those who developed emotional discipline continue even on bad days. They do not negotiate with their goal. And in the long run, that consistency surpasses any lazy genius. The math is clear. Those who don't stop win. It doesn't depend on inspiration. It depends on standards. It doesn't depend on a gift. It depends on the strategic repetition. And when you understand this deeply, you realize the question is not whether you have talent. The question is different and much more uncomfortable. There comes a moment when you need to stop asking whether you have enough talent. That question, deep down, is an elegant distraction. The real issue is different. Do you have enough discipline to sustain your goals when motivation disappears? Successful people do not wake up inspired every day, but they wake up committed. And that daily commitment builds personal success in an almost inevitable way. Talent may offer a fast start, but mental discipline keeps you in the race. It makes you study when no one is watching, train when you are tired, and invest when it would be easier to spend. High-level people understand that wealth is not an event, it is a process. And process requires strategic repetition. It requires playing to win every single day, not only when it's convenient. Emotional discipline also defines who remains when pressure increases. When criticism, losses, or failures arise, the talented may doubt themselves. The disciplined continue executing the plan. They do not react to the moment, they respond with strategy. And that stability creates a solid foundation for financial success to grow sustainably. Because consistency builds confidence, internally and externally. At the end of the day, you don't need to be the most talented person in the room. You need to be the most consistent. You need to be the one who does not fail yourself, who maintains high standards even without an audience, who understands that winning is the result of small choices repeated daily. And when this mindset settles in, growth stops being luck and becomes a predictable consequence. So the choice is simple, but not easy. Continue believing you lack talent, or admit that what's missing is discipline. Because talent may give you an initial advantage, but discipline delivers the finish line. And now that this is clear, the decision is in your hands. Now the question is no longer whether you have talent. The question is, are you willing to develop enough discipline to sustain the life you say you want? Because personal success and financial success are not built on days of extreme motivation. They are built on ordinary silent days when no one is watching and nothing feels exciting. That is where successful people set themselves apart. Do you want to win? Then stop negotiating with your goals. Do you want wealth? Start acting like someone who respects their own future. Do you want to become high level? Develop mental discipline to execute and emotional discipline to avoid self-sabotage. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency. Think honestly, how many times have you started something and stopped? How many times did you blame a lack of talent when in truth, it was a lack of consistency? If you decide today to show up every day and play to win, your trajectory changes, not tomorrow. It starts now. So tell me, will you keep waiting to feel ready, or will you act even without motivation? Comment below which area of your life most needs a discipline right now. And if this content opened your mind, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because here you learn how to build mindset, wealth, and real success without illusions and without shortcuts.